So many of us are moved in different ways with what's going on in the world. And there's a lot of grieving going on. There's a lot of activation. There's a lot of action. There's a real amplified awareness of injustices, like maybe hasn't been seen for decades. And I see so many people responding in so many different ways, and that is really beautiful. And it's touching to see how much compassion and empathy that is coming forth from people in different ways. And I feel like all the different dimensions of response to injustice are welcome and are valuable. One thing I'm curious about and investigating myself is how can we take a stand in these issues that are meaningful to us? How can we take a stand without deepening the polarization of somebody else, without actually making those whose views we don't agree with, actually having them dig in further into their views, and in some ways hardening the heart even more through defensiveness or feeling like they're being attacked or misunderstood or whatever. There is as far as I know, a pretty good study that was done not so long ago that essentially it was a psychology study, basically showed that when people have a particular point of view, if you try to talk them out of it, they are highly likely to increasingly adhere to their original point of view. So the ability to change someone's mind by telling them, no, you don't see it correctly, is pretty slim. Or at least it has fallout that accompanies it. So I believe that we both have to have our ethical compass and at the same time find some way to take action without further polarizing people, and somehow be larger than we're right and they're wrong. Somehow find a deeper, a more encompassing mind than that. So one thing I feel is really valuable is simply relationship. If we want to connect with people, and if we want to have there be an exchange of viewpoints, a real mutuality, it has to happen through relationship. There's something about actually knowing somebody directly. Let's say it's somebody who is on a different political spectrum, or somebody of a different race or religious group. There's something about actually having human connections. It's sad that this even has to be said, but our society is so polarized and segregated in so many ways. Actually having human connections that cuts through dehumanization. You can't dehumanize somebody if you really, or a group of people, if you really know them, if you have actual heart-to-heart connections. At least it's a lot harder to do so. So I think that's an important element in our work, is relationships with people who see different than us. So the practice that I want to do today begins with awareness, and I'll do a guided practice of a way of entering that kind of expansive state of mind. And then from there, we'll do a practice where we move into various perspectives, where we take up different points of view on an issue and enter one and then enter an opposite and so forth, and move between them. And by doing this, it actually lets us step into them and feel what they're like, and become aware of the state of mind to some degree. And also, because we move from that to awareness and then into another perspective, we develop this kind of non-attachment. And to phrase it positively, we create what I call multi-perspectival awareness. where we really are in touch with yes and. We really, and without giving up our deep passion or what we feel is most true. So any questions before we move into the meditation? Okay, so if you aren't already in a meditation posture, I invite you to move into that way of embodiment. The chest lifted. Quality of openness in the posture, upright and relaxed. And next, connecting to your intention for engaging this practice. Whatever is authentic for you. And perhaps connecting to just aspirations in general, personal and cultural work. And opening to energetic influence, connecting with teachers living or not living, present or past, inviting in their presence, perhaps bringing them up in the mind's eye, people who inspire you in your practice. And perhaps asking for guidance or support as you do the work. And this acting is an opening, making ourselves permeable. And shifting into the quality of welcoming, the essential quality of welcoming. Welcoming whatever is present for you at this moment. So opening yourself to whatever textures in the body, the heart, opening to whatever is going on in your immediate environment, in the room. And essentially embracing that this is what is present now. And perhaps detecting the absence of welcome by the complaining mind or struggling against a sensation in the body. And seeing if you can welcome even that unpleasant quality. This quality of welcoming, this heart of welcoming, in a sense, the beginning, middle, and end of meditation practice. So always returning to welcoming whenever we find ourselves in opposition to ourselves. From welcoming, shifting into rooting physically in this present moment. Connecting with the sits bones, the legs, perhaps the hands in the lap as well. even pushing down with the sits bones into the chair or the seat cushion, and amplifying the quality of stable, embodied presence. Firmly connected to the quality of earth. And expanding this to inhabit the whole of the body, like placing a lamp within a hollow doll. Awareness, presence, filling the whole of the body from head to toe. Fully inhabiting. Fully inhabiting the body with presence. Allowing what is there to be there. And inviting the quality of relaxation. Perhaps using the breath to release any unnecessary tension. Softening the brow, the eyes, the jaw, the neck, shoulders, chest, belly, lower body. Inviting a quality of melting and trusting oneself to relaxation. So with this welcoming and inhabiting of the body with presence, choosing some element of the present moment as an anchor for attention. Whether that's the breath or the body, perhaps the rising and passing of sounds. Simply choosing one of those as this anchor. Bringing a vivid wakefulness to that anchor. A vivid, high fidelity attention to the sensations of the breath. Foregrounding this anchor. and not so much doing something about the thinking mind as immersing in the moment by moment presence of this anchor. Feeling the flow of the inhalation, feeling the flow of the exhalation. Quality of alertness. Feeling this object, this anchor present. Without any strain, become aware of this body-mind breathing within the space of the room. Keenly feeling the flow of the breath within the space of the room. Keenly feeling the textures of the body and the openness that surrounds them. Aware of the body breathing all by itself within the space of this room. Aware that the ears hear all by themselves. No effort, willpower, self needed. Noticing that hearing hears. And likewise, the feeling of the body. Noticing that that is not a choice. The body feels naturally, effortlessly, happening all by itself. Whether the eyes are open or closed, noting that seeing sees effortlessly, automatically, without a self doing the seeing. And the thinking mind too, noting that the thinking mind thinks. Appreciating the effortless, selfless quality of that. being this body-mind present, effortlessly unfolding in the space of the room. Dialing up the quality of wakefulness, of awareness, trusting your intuitive sense of how to amplify that. And expanding this alert awareness to embrace everything that's going on. The sounds outside, feelings in the body, all the various sensations simultaneously happening all at once. Sustaining this expanded awareness. Inviting a quality of no interference, doing nothing about the unfolding of experience. Simply resting. In the last phase of the meditation, inviting spontaneous loving kindness, letting whatever beings, groups, people you feel connected and concerned with, letting those images of them rise up in the mind's eye, wishing them well. May you be at ease, may you be happy, and then letting the image pass and the next being to arise in the heart. Not excluding oneself as a recipient of loving kindness. And when you're ready, letting go of all practices, all doing of anything with the mind whatsoever. Just resting in simplicity. And when you're ready, opening the eyes, perhaps adjusting the posture. From here, I'd like to move into practice, the multi-perspectival practice. Let me explain how that's done. So what we'll do is I'll invite you to move into a voice, let's call it, a perspective. And then at that time, you'll actually shift your chair or your seat, if possible, to the left or to the right, at least a foot or two, wherever you feel this part may be. And you'll turn your screen so that we can still see each other. I can still see you. And then I will dialogue with you. And what you're doing is you're giving expression to this particular voice that I invited you to step into. Okay. Then after that's finished, you'll move back to center, and then we'll talk to another voice. Part of what we do is fake it till you make it. So sometimes we don't feel like this is genuinely how I feel, but give it a try to just stay in the energy and see what happens. Okay? So in this exercise, we're going to be in relationship to a climate change denier. We're going to be in reference to a climate change denier, somebody who thinks it's complete nonsense. Okay? So I'm going to, each part that we talk to, I'm going to talk to about this particular group of people or person. Okay. So when you're ready, I'd like you to move into the part of you that feels like you're right about climate change and they're wrong. Go ahead and make that shift. Physically moving over. You're going to need to, you can unmute now, would be good. Okay, I want to talk to the part of you that is, there's no room for any doubt whatsoever about climate change, and people who are in denial of it are just completely wrong, just foolish. Is that you? Yeah, okay. So what do you think about people who deny climate change?
They're not paying attention to science.
Okay, they're not paying attention to science.
They're crazy rednecks.
Crazy rednecks, okay. Uh-huh. What else?
Climate change is just another conspiracy theory to them.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And what do you think of people who think like that? Why are they like that?
Because they were not raised right.
Okay. So there's something wrong with their upbringing. Mm-hmm.
It was probably in the South.
Okay.
Perhaps they're uneducated, relatively uneducated.
Okay. All right.
I have a sense that they're afraid of change, or afraid of external and their own life change.
Uh-huh. Okay. What do you think they're afraid of?
Well, Jogen, this is a question I have about this technique, because I happen to have a loved one who fits in this category, and it's a little bit hard for me to separate, to have a generic person. I'm just,
Okay. So yeah, it's fine. So what are they afraid of?
this person whom I love and who doesn't believe in climate change. I think it feels like a huge problem that is, you know, there's a sort of helplessness to solve it, and then all of these people judging that I'm not able to, or that I'm not contributing enough, or that I'm not taking it seriously enough. And so both a sort of helplessness and a feeling of, you know, being judged.
But they are totally confused. They should be judged. The science is there, right?
Which voice am I speaking now?
The one that's just right. I mean, we're right. We know that climate change is real, and anyone who denies it is just foolish.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, there's a certain turning away from facts, or not awareness of facts, or it's such a big issue. I'll just keep living my life the best way I can and not worry about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
What
Some
keeps
people call
popping in my
that putting
head.
your head in the sand. What's that?
Sorry, Jogen. I was just saying, what keeps popping in my head for this exercise is, how can people who literally believe, and I know I'm stereotyping, but how can people who literally believe that we all came from Adam and Eve, or that a 500-year-old man loaded 2 of every animal in the world onto an ark, how could they not believe climate change?
Mm-hmm. Right. So these same kind of people who take these myths literally are the same people who are saying there's no climate change.
Usually.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else from being the one who knows that you're right and these people are just confused and wrong?
One voice says, you know, they don't have the right information sources.
Right.
They should just be if they're aware of, you know, the correct information, they would, you know, have their mind opened.
Okay. Okay. Sure.
And what popped into my head is that this is why Fox News should be outlawed.
Uh-huh. That way, at least we could kind of cut off the transmission of their confused view.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so thank you for talking to me. Now I'd like to go back to the position you were originally in. So move back to the center. Okay. And letting go of this part of you as much as possible. Letting any remnants of its thoughts or its energy drain out on the exhalation. Feeling the difference in your body when you're here in this place of awareness. Okay. I want to invite you to move into a different voice. And this is the voice that takes a stand about climate change, but is compassionate and curious about their view. Okay. Still takes a stand about climate change, but has compassion for them and is curious about how they think. So when you're ready, go ahead and move to the other side. Okay, so I want to talk to the part that has some compassion and is actually open to what these people believe. What's your attitude towards climate change deniers?
What makes you feel that way?
Yeah, what makes them feel that way? How would you unfold that if you wanted to get to the heart of it?
I wonder if maybe they don't trust broadly the government, and they think that's a conspiracy because they've been tricked before. Can't think of an example, but they feel as though they've been duped and now they won't trust again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So perhaps that's filtering the information that's coming through to them. Mm-hmm. Okay. How else do you see people who are in denial of climate change?
This is a lot harder, I'll say that.
Yeah.
I have a sense of compassion with the view that science is always changing. That there's this, often there are a scientific consensus, and then a few years later there's new information, and it can be, what do I believe now? They're going to tell me something different in a few years anyway. I'm going to change my whole life based on this, and then something different. How do I really know what's true?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you can empathize with that attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. What's the worst thing that could happen to these folks from the consequence of their belief? Or what's the worst thing that could happen to the world?
That it'll be uninhabitable.
Why will it be uninhabitable?
Mass migration, increased temperatures, flooding, disease, lack of food, lack of medication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially in some parts of the world where it's like already getting unreasonably hot.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole thing with the ice caps melting and everything, and polar bears being at risk of extinction.
Mm-hmm. And do you think the climate change deniers are concerned about this, believe that's a possibility?
No, I don't think they know.
I don't think they know. Why don't they know?
Because they watch Fox News.
Because they usually listen to what a preacher or somebody usually tells them. They literally believe in myths of the Bible that are scientifically impossible.
Mm-hmm. So that makes sense. So they have a deep religious faith, and people who they trust are telling them. that this isn't real. You can't trust the government. The government has lied to its people many times.
Which is partially true.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Anything else from you who's curious about the view of these people?
I wonder how they feel that they would have to change their life. You know, what if they believed it, that there was some kind of urgent or, you know, true, real thing happening in the environment, how would they feel they needed to respond to that in their lives? Did they feel they need to move into a smaller home or drive a different car or, you know, all these different kinds of changes that they might feel would be necessary if they did believe it?
I worked so hard for everything I have, and my father and my grandfather worked so hard, and these liberals like you are going to take away everything I've worked so hard for because you believe in some quack science.
Yeah, exactly. And not just I worked so hard, but I really believed I was living an honorable life the way I've lived. I've really tried to live an honorable life.
I'm a good person.
I'm a good person, and now you're saying that I'm part of the problem.
I'm a good person.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back to the center once again and let go of that part that's even open. Take a moment and open awareness and see if you can connect to the qualities of both of them at the same time. So the first part, judgmental, quality of righteousness. They just don't have the facts. They're confused. And then this other part on the other side that is more open and has access to a quality of curiosity. Feel into both of those simultaneously. Okay. And then one more pair of voices. And these are probably more distinct, I think you'll find in yourself. So I invite you to really step into these perspectives. The whole purpose of this exercise is to see that we contain different parts of ourselves. I invite you to move into the part of you that's hopeless about climate change. That feels hopeless about the situation. So go ahead and move over to wherever you feel that may be. So you are the one who feels that that climate change or the turning around of the situation, there's no hope. Tell me about how you feel.
Well, it goes back. I was raised in the South, for those who don't know, in Christianity. It goes back to me thinking, oh my gosh, is some of the stuff at the end of the Bible in Revelation true? Is this world coming to an end?
Uh-huh. Okay. Sure looks like it. Tell me why you're hopeless, how you see the situation.
I've been exposed to a decent amount of the science, and knowing that even if we stopped emitting every kilogram of greenhouse gases tomorrow, we've still set in motion or locked in a series of climatic events that are now irreversible. And we still have a heavy dependency on fossil fuels, and that will not end tomorrow. So the impacts will actually be worse than what we've already locked in. And we're already starting to see impacts by the 600 forest fires that are currently burning in California, and sea level rise and disease spread.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the worst part is that we have the capital to actually like actually slow it down and stop it, and it's not being effectively mobilized due to political issues.
Uh-huh. Do you personally feel like you can make a difference at this point?
I wrestle with that often
Mm-hmm.
because I know that one person is so small, and even if you share all the information and you know, vote for the right people, one person is still one person.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else?
Jogen, when you say hopeless, I'm just wondering if you mean like some sense that the process can't be stopped or the process will just happen, or do you mean like I wish it would not stop? Like there's a view that's kind of like, well, this is the way the planet's always been. It's a kind of astronomy view. You know, there have been ice ages and climate changes that will just happen. But
I mean, the part of you that's just hopeless that human beings will do anything about this, even though we can.
It makes me glad I chose to not have children
Uh-huh.
and
Right.
continue to make that choice.
Uh-huh. So they won't be subjected to the future disasters coming.
Nope.
Okay, anything else you want to give voice to about your hopelessness with the situation of climate change?
Well, I think it takes collective action. And if you have people on different sides, then we're not moving together to fix the problem.
No. And it looks like people are getting more and more on different sides.
The situation, the word I thought of a few minutes ago is literally polarized. I know it's kind of a bad word, but it's just like every country, it just seems divisions are growing deeper and deeper.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for Gemma.
oh, I mean, what comes to mind is the, you know, population booms and the transitions into industrial lifestyle in big countries like India. And I guess that when I get into that sort of hopeless mindset, it's about there are these huge trends with like tremendous inertia and also with positive effects in people's lives, that they're inevitably those positive incentives of having decent living conditions and, you know, decent sort of working, decent work to do. I mean, all of that feels like unstoppable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because people are not going to stop having babies, and they're not going to not want a high quality of life like they see us having.
Right, to improve their situations.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for talking to me. Let's go back to the center. And really leaving that part where it was. So coming here in this place of awareness, letting go of that energy as much as possible. Whether using visualization, the breath. That's a perspective, a voice in you, but that is not who you are, or the only perspective in you. And when you're ready, I'd like you to move to the other side, and I want to talk to the part of you that is positive. Feels like there's a lot of possibility for transformation. Part of you that's optimistic. So if you'd like, make that shift over. Okay, so I'd like to talk to the part in you that sees possibility here, that hasn't really closed the book on the planet and human beings.
One person can make a difference because it's usually not just one person trying to make a difference.
Okay, so one person's making an effort adds up when there's many of those one persons. Okay.
The first thing that popped into my mind was, technology in the last 100 years has changed so dramatically that it feels possible that in even a few decades things will look so transformed, and that technology and that scientific effort really does move quickly on a human scale, and especially on an earth scale.
Mm-hmm.
We've only been driving cars and mining coal for longer, but driving cars for 100 years.
Yeah.
And could be that we're 100% carbon free in 100 years from now.
Yeah. Yeah. Science has, in a just short time, medical discoveries have just completely unimaginable 50 years ago, even. And technology we have and the organization of data. Yeah. So and science created this mess. Maybe technology created this mess. So maybe the technology can fix it. Why wouldn't that be possible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
People can change. When I was a kid, I used to believe the same way the people around me did, but I changed.
Yeah. So you know that that's possible.
There is evidence that shows that investors are learning that investing in green solutions actually has a positive financial return, and that in a couple of decades fossil fuel companies will not be profitable anymore.
Yeah. Okay. So the great incentive of economics is there.
Yeah.
What would you tell somebody who is just hopeless? There was part of you that really feels hopeless, that people aren't going to change, that governments aren't going to mobilize, that people are too selfish and confused. What would you tell that part of yourself, or someone like that who's just really kind of pessimistic about this whole situation?
That things are changing, even if they're not changing quite fast enough.
Mm-hmm. Change is happening.
Even powerful religious leaders are being discredited. Look what's going on in the news with Jerry Falwell Jr.
Okay. So there's some things moving politically. Huh? Gemma?
Well, we had the ozone hole, it was a slightly different environmental problem, but we changed regulations around CFCs, and we've largely regrown the protective, atmospheric environment.
Yeah.
So
that's really encouraging. Yeah.
And it took an international effort as well.
Yeah. But we did it.
Mm-hmm.
With the current political climate, there are groups of people that are not going to be silent anymore.
Mm-hmm. The people are speaking up. So what would you tell somebody who just didn't believe in any of this altogether? How would you reach them?
Didn't believe in any of the hopeful, or didn't believe in what?
Just is really skeptical that there even is climate change. How would you open up the conversation with them?
I think I would ask them to explain their perspective more, and perhaps why they hold that viewpoint. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's based on where they live or how they've been raised and educated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you let them speak, you can gain a greater sense of empathy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people are actually heard, then they don't feel like they're being condescended upon or devalued. Okay. Anything else from the part of you that is optimistic about responding to this situation?
It comes back to karma. I just have to believe in karma, even though in the past 4 years it's been really hard to see that.
Mhm. Okay. And by karma, what do you mean?
Maybe I'm not explaining it right, but it's just like I have to believe that the people who are doing wrong, something is going to have them change. You know, something dramatic is going to happen. Maybe people have a spiritual awakening. You know, maybe I explained it bad.
No, that's okay. Yeah.
That the people doing wrong will be dealt with.
I have a slightly different voice which arises, which I don't know if this is what you're inviting, but it's like climate change is okay. It's real and it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about it. Why is it okay?
Well, this is how planets are. You know, they change. We go through all these different phases, different forms of life arise and pass away, and it's probably happening all over the universe. It certainly happened in our solar system that, you know, conditions on this planet and the other planets have been in constant change since the planets formed, and you know, will be that way until, you know, eventually there's no source of energy to sustain life on the planet anyway. So
yeah. So you have a view that is a little bit more like universal, or it's a bigger view. It's not so much tied up in the humans' drama and love of life. It's just the way things are.
yeah, well, yeah. Along with that voice, I will say that this is kind of a voice, I think in my academic or work community among astronomers tend to have this view that, like, you know, this planet will not always sustain life anyway for some reason or another. But then the other part of that is, you know, so we should send people to colonize other parts of the solar system.
That's what I was thinking.
There is some sense of wanting to preserve life, even as the planet changes.
That's optimistic. It's like, all right, let's get a new one. It's a certain kind of optimism.
And when she was talking, I was thinking, well, if this planet becomes uninhabitable, what's to say that climate change isn't going to happen on other planets and they'll become inhabitable?
Well, at least we'll have a couple thousand years.
Right.
Well, and I also want to say there's room in that view, there is still room for compassion around the suffering that will happen. I mean, I think it is okay in the course of, you know, long time scales, and also understand that there are people currently suffering due to climate change and have compassion and want to help them in the ways that we can.
So I think we got just a little taste of multi-perspectivalness. Some of the energies we are able to step into more than others. And when it's difficult to really move into a perspective, often it means that it's a little bit marginalized in our heart, or there's something that keeps us from embracing it and giving expression to it. We often call that the shadow. That, for example, the ignorant part of us, we may not want to include that at all, and so it's hard to relate to. But I think we got a little bit of a sense of this process and how we can be nuanced in our view, and how that's more useful perhaps if we actually want to have some movement on these issues. Do you have any reflections, your experience? The experience of the process? Did you have any sense of the distinctness of the energies?
It's really hard for me to find compassion or even an interest in the other side of the story.
Okay. Good to note that.
I noticed a kind of momentary distinctness. And I also think it's interesting what you said at the end, that there are some that feels like just slipping a foot into a shoe, like it's easy to sort of slip into that energy. And then some that were just a little bit more like, like trying it on, it wasn't quite fitting, or, you know, it's a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, I certainly find that.
Interestingly, that for me, not to get too personal, but the one that I'm right, science is right, was actually the hardest one for me. And I'm a scientist, and I wonder if I've kind of like, anyway, I don't know. Somehow I've sort of wanted to like not be that way, you know, as a scientist. I've tried to, you know, bring forth the others, but yeah, it's a good reminder that they all exist within us.
You're too broad. We need you to be more rigid.
Well, I've worked for so many years on not being the know-it-all, you know.
Right. Right. Yeah. Alyssa, Joanna, any reflections?
I was thinking about how this would help to further my anti-racism education,
Mm-hmm.
which is a piece of work that I'm continuously doing, but I already hold a certain degree of empathy for others, and I think I didn't need. I'm not sure that. Like I think I was very much trying to put myself in the position of people that were victims of racism, and I didn't have any trouble feeling empathy or sympathy for them, but perhaps for people, I think actually would help me communicate with people that, not the victims, but people that think that racism is not an issue.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a better way for me to think about it, actually.
Yeah. And especially as white folks, we have the most power to reach white folks who are not willing to really work with these issues or look at them in themselves. And there's this whole thing of just shaming culture, and kind of weaponizing ideas, concepts like white privilege and white fragility and so forth, that people are alienated, and it just makes them more, they just get more entrenched in their view. So yeah, I would like to bring this kind of process into those topics. I don't know that I'm quite skillful enough. That's pretty, that could be intense territory. Because we need to be able to at least give voice to the racist perspective. And I don't know, can we do that?
I would say if anyone was gonna do that, it would be in this type of environment, because first time as a place of peace and open-mindedness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it may be in the right context. It could be helpful. Some people would say the reason that Trump came to power was the repression of the racist voice, or the denial of its presence it just kind of rebounded. And all of this is coming up in people that's always been there. But so many people have just tried to push it aside or not look at it.
I think it's possible, as you say, in the right context. I think, even in our home, we do sometimes, try to find that voice, like try to understand that and give voice to it. And I think it can be a useful exercise, to many voices in that topic area. Yeah.
Right. There's different ones. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm biracial, and my mom's white, my dad's Mexican, Native American. And there's actually biracial meditation groups where we unpack some of this, because it's like interesting. Like I have some elements of the colonizers and some of the colonized, and sometimes we try to explore the different parts of us, because being biracial is a particular kind of struggle. You never quite fit in one place. So I think it could be done. It would just need to be handled well. I would definitely like to see, some people of color involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Alyssa, anything else we should say before closing from the Presence Collective side? Well, excuse me, one sec. Thank you all for participating. It was, this kind of practice is not usually done in this way over Zoom, but I think we got a little taste of it. So I appreciate you being willing to be experimental. experimental and vulnerable.
Yeah, I think I heard some really good points. And Joanna, I also felt this tie to the political side and the racism, anti-racism side, because that's so present right now. And I was also like in my head, like playing with that theme. Jogen, I thought it was interesting how just a mere suggestion of you saying like, put yourself in this category or this kind of perspective, like made it so easy for me to step into that. Like stepping into anger was so easy, and then stepping into positivity. And it was a good reminder that sometimes it's a mindset. Like you have to like tell yourself, like, I'm walking in here trying to be as empathetic as I can or open-minded as I can. And sometimes that grounding could help a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
So thank you for
Yeah, thanks.
today.
Good.
My only announcement is I'm just going to put a link for our upcoming events. We do these Thursday webinars, and we have Tuesday morning sits, and we have Wednesday night sits. So all that information's on our website.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the opportunity, Alyssa. Yeah.
Thanks, Jogen. Thank you, Alyssa.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a good rest of the day. Bye.